Good morning.
Good morning, good morning.
So we know who the early folks are here, right? They all got their caffeine going. Well, welcome everyone. Good morning. I'm Christina Lambert with the City of West Palm Beach. And we're here at a moment where AI isn't just changing industries, it's fundamentally changing how work gets done. In just a few years, it's gone from a tool to something that can reason, act, and increasingly work alongside humans in real workflows. And in cities like ours here in West Palm Beach, the question is simple but urgent. Are we ready for that shift? Secretary Mack is here with us today at the center of that conversation nationally, and I'm excited to explore how we align workforce, education, and policy with what's actually coming next. Secretary Mack, as AI begins to reshape not just jobs, but how work itself gets done, how should leaders be rethinking workforce strategies?
Yeah, so it's a great question, and again, thank you for everyone for joining, and as well as the organizers of the event for inviting me to talk about the administration's priorities around enhancing access to quality and robust training for the future of work, and that is to say, to understand, I think, more deeply how AI is impacting the job look and the job outcomes and the job occupations, and with that, then the training that is coupled with those occupations. So thanks again, everyone, for being here. I think right to the heart of your question, we need to think about how we are reimagining the K-12 sector, the higher ed sector, and separately but relatedly, the workforce education and talent development sector. To the latter part, there exists an existing infrastructure of training opportunities and programs and centers through the Workforce Innovation Opportunity Act. These centers are responsible for meeting and reversing engineering the degree programs and training programs that employers want by way of future talent. So the question really is what do employers want, and how are employers signaling to the education and workforce system their particular needs for those occupations? It is then incumbent upon us, the Department of Labor, and these workforce boards through the WIOA system, as well as the higher ed system, as well as the K-12 system, then to attune their training programs to the specific needs of employers. So respectfully, I would kick it back to the employers. What do you need? How do you need it? When do you need it? What education level do you need in order to fill the job that you're looking to fill? Or really to upskill the existing employee base in a way to meet the increasing demands of the future of work, that is to say, AI. It is then our responsibility and the Department of Labor's responsibility, together with the Education Department, to again, reverse engineer syllabi, coursework, training programs to get that job done. So that's one thing we can do, is reverse engineer programs and training programs to meet employer needs now. The second thing we can do is subsidize it. Billions of dollars are earmarked for workforce education and training and talent development. And those billions of dollars flow to state departments of education and to state workforce boards and local boards like CareerSource Florida of the world's here in Florida. Those billions of dollars are at the employer's disposal now. And it's a matter, I guess, maybe short answer, not so short answer, is getting employers engaged in our workforce and education training systems so that we know what they expect or what they need.
Well, thank you. And I think that conferences like this, opportunities where businesses and policymakers come together, help us to reverse engineer and to make sure that we're prioritizing those needs. And, you know, from where I sit in West Palm Beach, we're positioning this great city as a global wealth and innovation hub here. But growth, we know, doesn't automatically translate into opportunity. So my next question to you is, if you could share with us where you believe cities might be falling behind and what we can be doing with greater urgency to help access those funds, to help reverse engineer, to help identify those opportunities.
Yeah, it's a great question. And again, the first question too to in my first response is alluding to the fact that historically the systems have been siloed. Labor and commerce do their thing, education does their thing, health and human services does their thing, SNAP and TANF and children and family services do their thing. The time for a siloed approach to addressing the economic needs of cities is over. We need to figure out how to break down silos, restore communication gaps and processes, and we're trying to do that at the federal level by restoring, on the one hand, education to the states, by closing the Department of Education, by taking many of the education programs from the Department of Education and reverse engineering them to meet the employer demands. And I think cities in particular, to your question, would do well to pick up the phone, works both ways, and call the local workforce board, call the local community college, call the higher ed institution, and help us hold them accountable to meet businesses and industries' needs. The resource is there. I hope the will is there. The regulatory authority is there. And now, from the Trump administration, the directive is there. We cannot rely on, for example, traditional baccalaureate degrees as a sufficient mechanism for producing talent. It takes too long. The idea that we're still wedded to a 3-credit structure hour of earning, or rather of learning, is confusing to me. Why we are insisting, for example, most students to matriculate through 4 years of 120 credit hours rather than maybe validating their skills, employing competency-based mechanisms of learning and portfolio assessments to help them graduate with the credential that the employer is insisting quicker. Maybe cities also, too, can talk to their employers about right-sizing their job descriptions and maybe removing the default to a bachelor's degree as a necessary condition of entry into an occupation. I think we have degree bias among employers. They just don't know what education signal is the necessary signal to meet their needs. And so maybe we think about creatively skill-based hiring. And maybe cities, to your question, push for skill-based hiring. Maybe cities push for skill-based mechanisms of training with higher ed and with workforce systems and the career sources of the world. Maybe we don't necessarily accept the idea that the credit hour structure is the way to go. Maybe we force competency-based education and learning. And I'll add to this, and this is the last point. There are a troubling amount of adults out in the workforce, or rather out in the nation, that are not in the workforce, nor are they in education. About 5 million adults from 18 to around 54 are not pursuing an education, nor are they pursuing a job. Moreover, you have adults out there that are barely literate, can barely read or write, don't have a high school diploma, but do express a desire to return to education or employment. We know the data set of adults that have expressed intent to return to education and training and a job. In Florida alone, it's about 1.2 million. Why don't cities try to figure out ways to re-engage these adult learner populations and get them back enrolled either through the community college system, the higher ed system, the technical college system, or the workforce board systems?
Yeah, well, I appreciate what you're saying about collaboration, accountability. I know behind the stage we were talking with President Parker from Palm Beach State College, and the importance of working with our state colleges and community colleges here. You know, you talk about shift in skills. And so one of the most striking things that we're seeing isn't necessarily just job loss to AI, it is the massive shift in skills. I'm curious if you could share with us your thoughts on what skills will matter most over the next 5 to 10 years.
So speaking of AI, and I guess maybe AI's impact on the economy and occupations in particular, I don't know if we accept the premise that AI is causing job loss. I don't know if we know enough yet, and we don't ascribe to and I'm not saying you're saying this, we don't ascribe to the doomerism that perhaps many people do around AI's impact to actual jobs, and that would result in actual job loss. Rather, it's a matter of how to understand AI's ability to complement, to enhance, to improve efficiency, and to accelerate work among existing occupations. I don't necessarily think that there is gross, rapid disruption and displacement. Simply, the data is just not showing that. It's rather attuning oneself to the skills required of that occupation or job title and how AI then can leverage itself to complement that work. So the skill is AI readiness, AI literacy, understanding generative AI, understanding the use and the tools and the mechanisms that are at your disposal to help you do your job more efficiently. And the Department of Labor recently announced an AI literacy framework. All you have to do is just Google Department of Labor AI literacy framework. It provides 7 principles of foundational knowledge skill sets and how employers and students and learners can apply AI both to their jobs but also to their education experience. That's the latest thing that the Department of Ed has done. So to answer your question in terms of what skills, I would redirect you to that AI literacy framework. I would also ask you maybe to text ready to 20202. Just text ready to 20202. 20202. Text ready. That is a free AI readiness literacy resource to help those, no matter where you are, understand how to deploy, use AI as it relates to your job and your occupations or your future educational sort of career and choice. It is a free resource that the Trump administration has just deployed, free to every American, if all you need is a cell phone. Lastly, I will say, despite the reality that the college for all model and the idea that you have to go to a university to be successful in life has failed, trillions of dollars of debt, for what? Nothing. That's a bit hyperbolic, but it's true. The college for all model needs to be right-sized, and we're trying to right-size it by emphasizing the vocational trades. So to your question about skills, vocational trades, understanding AI impact on vocational trades like HVAC technicians, et cetera. We're also looking to double down on the defense industrial base, shipbuilding, manufacturing, welding, engineering, IT, healthcare. Those are the priorities. So to answer your question about skills, skills aligned to those occupations is what we would sort of incentivize and fund with the billions of dollars that are coming out now to support the work.
Thank you. And, you know, we're talking about being ready, and thank you for that text link. But what are we underestimating about being ready and how quickly this shift is happening?
I don't know. That's a great question. What do you think? What are we underestimating?
Where are we not ready? What rock have we not looked under yet?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. The adult learner population really keeps me up at night. The idea that there are millions and millions of adults that are ready to work, but for the fact that they lack literacy and numeracy and skills. I don't think we've adequately and more, I think, robustly and deeply thought through AI's impact on that population and how we are re-engaging them meaningfully. But I would argue that's incumbent upon the states and the cities of the world, cities of the nation, to figure that out in partnership with, you know, the great Ava Parkers of the world and the community college system, and even indeed the higher ed system. So, you know, back to the college for all model. Yes, that's failed, and we're trying to uplift and right-size vocational education and trades. Maybe also, too, in this conversation, we don't want to lose, to your question, we don't want to lose the human skills. We don't want to lose the richness that comes from being exposed to philosophy and literature and Western civilization and the great books curriculum. We're as much interested in solving for the future of work as we are interested in maintaining this great democracy of ours, and that requires exposure to the classical works of Western civilization and philosophy. So it's a both-and approach, I think, maybe, and I don't know, to your question, if we've thought about how to adequately nuance the two aims and present them in a complementary way and incent action accordingly.
Well, I like that we're discussing it, and I like that this is a major topic of the conference here today. And it's clear from this conversation that the future of work isn't just about jobs. It's about how the work itself is being redefined and how we collaborate with our businesses, with those who are offering jobs, with our local government, with federal government. And for cities like ours, the responsibility is clear. We must move faster. We must think differently. Thank you for inspiring us on that. And we must make sure that our residents are not just aware of what's coming, but that we are ready for it. So because this shift is happening with or without us. And so thank you so
Absolutely.
much for being a part of this conversation.
If I might add one more thing, the president has set a goal for us of 1 million active registered apprentices. Registered apprenticeship is a formal training mechanism or model that, again, reverse engineers the curriculum in a way to allow employers to hire the talent now, train them in the job, and subsidize the training through state and federal partnerships. Registered apprenticeships are effectively regulated by the Department of Labor, and I would invite every employer in the audience to just Google Apprentice Florida, for example, to understand how you might be able to nearly guarantee a pipeline of talent in a fast and efficient but quality sort of fashion or way in partnership with education institutions and otherwise. So registered apprenticeship is a model that's there now. We are subsidizing it to the tune of hundreds of millions of dollars. We released a pay-per-performance grant recently. We're looking for apprentices, or rather companies or partners or facilitators, to act as intermediaries. We just published an RFP, a multi-million-dollar RFP, asking intermediaries or businesses or whomever to partner with the Department of Labor to try and figure out how to embed AI competencies in and among all registered apprenticeship programs, if not also develop new AI registered apprenticeships. There is a lot going on in the registered apprenticeship space. I would just be remiss if I just didn't flag that for everyone watching and present, and certainly for cities. Back to your prior question, that is an excellent mechanism for cities to use in partnership with states and the feds to meet the talent gaps of today. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you for joining us in West Palm Beach.
Thank you. Thank you.